guys, welcome to another live experiment on my channel, Mike's DVDs and Blu-rays Collection. Uh, Tonight, I got a special guest, friend of the channel, Geno Cuddy, who is no stranger on my channel and live streams. He's already done one with me, the first one I ever did, and everything he's doing. He's friend of the channel and everything. So how you doing tonight, Geno?
I'm trying to hang in there, Mike. Just trying my best to maintain and hang in there.
Yeah, man. I hear you. We're all, who knows what next day or next week will be like sometimes, especially
right.
Especially if you're on certain kinds of insurance and healthcare like me. I mean, I think you are
right.
too. Never know what's going on in the world. But anyways, we're going to try to escape the madness for maybe an hour or so and talk about some other madness. TCM, Turner Classic Movies, the channel, the institution. The other day, I think it was Sunday. Yeah, it must have been Sunday. Geno here shared a video on Facebook, and I've listened to it, watched it, and I was just like, man, I was all fired up because I was ready right then to just put my 2 cents worth in. But there was a guy, his channel was it Fire? What was it, Geno?
I forgot his channel name myself.
It's like
but
Fireside something.
Yeah, something like that.
Anyways, yeah,
we'll put his video down in the description box below when this is archived. But yeah, everything that this guy said in his video, his I guess his real name is Cody McCormick, and everything that he was saying in that video was like spot on and things that I've been saying literally for years. Just to give a little bit of background here, I myself was a fan of Turner Classic Movies and TCM and everything for many years. I would tune into the network and often watch something like Nosferatu. I mean, Turner Classic Movies is where I first discovered F.W. Murnau's Nosferatu. I also discovered a lot of other movies there. I actually have on a videotape somewhere that I recorded the night where Jerry Beck, animation historian Jerry Beck, was on with Robert Osborne discussing classic film animation, and they showed for the first time Max Fleischer's Gulliver's Travels, as well as his follow-up feature, which was Mr. Bug Goes to Town, and just a whole bunch of other animated subjects throughout the evening. And I used to really love the network. I used to tape a lot of things off the network. But it seems that when Robert Osborne died back in, I believe it was 2014 or so. When was that, Mike? Do you remember?
I think it was like 2016 or 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, yeah, it was about then. Yeah.
Okay. And I noticed that there was beginning to be a decline in the network as soon as Mr. Osborne did pass away. The fellow who was making who made the video that we're discussing noted that the sets changed. It went from like a comfortable like screening room to looking like a college dorm room or something like that. And the hosts, aren't on the same caliber as Robert Osborne was. I mean, Robert Osborne was universally interested in the study of classic movies and classic filmmaking. So, I mean, I'm not going to say that these other people aren't necessarily, but I don't necessarily feel the passion or the verve with them that I felt with Robert Osborne, the warmth of the man. And there are going to be some things that I'm going to say here tonight on Mike's stream that are likely going to be controversial with people, but at this point, I don't care
I
because
think this whole thing is controversial. This whole thing is going to be just us.
yeah,
Oh no, yeah.
yeah, because there are some things that need to be discussed. I mean, when I first started seeing the channel struggling to stay afloat, I mean, do we really need a TCM wine club? Do we really need all these ancillary things, attached to the love of classic movies? I mean, I guess TCM backlot was a good thing, was a good thing. Because you got chapters of people devoted to the love of classic movies and stuff. But do we really need a classic movie cruise? Do we really need a wine club? I mean, who is TCM really catering to? Are they catering to the classic movie fan, or are they catering to, the elites of society? I mean, it's not like we're about to sit down. I mean, a lot of these movies are gorgeous and beautiful and stunning to look at, yes, and are classy, higher echelon productions, a lot of them. But do we really need to be advertising a wine club? Like, who thought that movies and wine went together? I mean, who really thought of that?
I don't know.
And
An ad exec,
yeah,
somewhere thought that.
right, and it just seems like a cash grab, really, with that. And it's like that was when I started noticing, the cracks in the system. But there are two main points that I feel need to be addressed. And I mean, I don't want to dominate the conversation because I do realize this is Mike's channel. And if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to, write
Geno, you better. Yeah, don't try to Shanghai my channel now. But let's hear what you got to say, though.
There are 2 points that I want to make. Two things that I definitely want us to discuss in much more detail. And those 2 things are my 2 issues with the network, aside from their obvious catering to the upper echelon elites of the world, is for one thing, why are they showing newer movies on Turner Classic Movies? Like, why are we seeing Back to the Future? Why are we seeing RoboCop, movies from 2003, 2004? Why are we seeing these kinds of films on a network that was instituted to preserve, classic black and white movies? I mean, when I think of Turner Classic Movies, I think of turning it on and seeing like an RKO musical from 1935. I don't turn on Turner Classic Movies to see, Michael J. Fox in a DeLorean going back to 1955 or whatever. There's 2 distinctive, because there's a channel for those movies. I mean, look, I realize that at this point, those other movies like RoboCop, Back to the Future, and a lot of those other things are getting to be, deemed classic movies and and they are advancing in age, so to speak. But even at that, I am of the opinion, and I think, no, his name wasn't Cody. I think it was Cole.
Sorry, Geno. Let me interrupt you real quick. His channel was Firewood Media TV. I put that up in the comments there.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah, Firewood said, something to the effect of Turner Classic Movies should only be for movies from like the silent era up until like 1968, 69. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think that there should be a cutoff point, of the types of movies that they show, or the eras of movies that they show. I mean, here's the thing that I want to discuss here is that initially, back in the day, like we're going back 50s, 60s, 70s, it was not too highly uncommon to see a black and white movie on a mainstream network television station. It wasn't too uncommon to see like King Kong on like WOR TV. It wasn't too uncommon to see Laurel and Hardy on PIX. It wasn't too uncommon to see, It's a Wonderful Life on NBC or Citizen Kane or any of these classic films. I mean, I do realize that, while I'm saying this, It's a Wonderful Life is still aired, at Christmas time on NBC. And I do realize that PIX at least continues the tradition of airing March of the Wooden Soldiers, aka Babes in Toyland, with Laurel and Hardy. And I'm glad that those traditions are still kept running. But by and large, throughout, the passage of time, it just seems as if, black and white movies became marginalized to cable television, like TNT, TBS. That's where they would be run on the old Ted Turner stations. And even at that, they would be colorized, a lot of them, to appeal to a new audience. And that was controversial at the time. And that we could devote a whole other stream to the process of the controversial process of film colorization and stuff like that. But, so they became marginalized to TNT, TBS, and the Ted Turner stations. So those were the only places where you could see like a classic black and white film or a silent film or something like that, something rare that, a lot of people weren't seeing. Actually, there was like a bumper that I saw years ago of a promotion of a Wheeler and Woolsey double feature on TNT, and I thought that was pretty cool. And then, you had channels come along a little later in the 90s, like American Movie Classics, AMC. Yes, AMC was once a movie channel, ladies and gentlemen. It wasn't just the Walking Dead network.
I loved AMC back in the day.
And then, there was, in direct competition to AMC, there was Ted Turner's Turner Classic Movies, which became established in 1994. And so that's when, those movies that were so marginalized and really had nowhere to go at that point in the game, that's where those movies had a place to go, finally. And they could show them, and the audience would be right, or it would be somebody flipping through channels and, oh, what's this? Douglas Fairbanks on a magic carpet riding through the sky. This looks pretty interesting. Maybe I'll sit down and I'll continue watching this.
But only on a Sunday, though.
Yes,
that's generally when they came on.
But then, when Robert Osborne died, TCM kept adding newer movies and newer movies and newer movies and newer movies, going from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. And it's like, you already have a channel that's focused around showing movies that were marginalized in the 90s because they were black and white and old and scratchy and no one wanted to see them. So why are you going to clutter up the schedule when you could be showing more of those movies with movies that you could basically see still on regular cable television? Like, you could still see probably Back to the Future on like Encore or Stars or HBO or one of those other channels still.
Multiple channels.
Right. And so it just, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It just pisses me off, honestly, that, that they do that, that they are having these movies, being shown on a channel that was only supposed to be for classic movies.
Well, you know how that goes. Stuff can change.
Yeah.
And it does. But yeah, man, I was going to say, I know we kind of jumped into it real quick, but yeah, I was going to say about all of this, like the colorization. And I remember when I was like 10 years old, that was a big thing, started seeing that. This was like 1985, 86, and that was when it started, really. But yeah, I mean, why I got so fired up about this was something I've noticed, and I've kind of kept it to myself because I really don't have a lot of people to vent to. Now, my dad, he watches film noir and stuff like that religiously. Now, he'll watch whatever's on TCM most of the time. And he kind of keeps me up to date nowadays because I don't have an actual channel where it's on live and everything. And I've kind of, griped to him about it, but, he doesn't really give a hoot. But yeah, I mean, when I first, well, let me just do my spiel. I'll do my thing. Oh, okay. I have to thank Ted Turner because my love of movies because of him. Yes, because his channel TNT. Now back in like 1990, 89, 90, they were showing a mixed package of movies, old movies, because this was before TCM. AMC was kind of, I don't know if they had already started. I think they may have started by then.
Hmm.
But when I first saw, you know, like some Marx Brothers movies, some war movies and Charlie Chaplin movie. At first, I mean, I had seen Charlie Chaplin before, but once I saw Modern Times and The Great Dictator, and it was on there. I mean, I was
Right.
captivated, and then it exposed me to foreign cinema on Sunday
Right.
nights. They had something called, TNT. They may have called it something to the effect of imports. But I mean, I discovered Rashomon and all that stuff, and so on and so forth. Plus, but back then they showed the old Bugs Bunny, Tom and Jerry, because all that, he owned all that stuff then, um, which got me into old movies, and I discovered that. I mean, I love new movies. I still love new movies. I'm not. I am a purist, but I don't know. I still keep up with stuff. I try to, anyways. But in AMC, we didn't get AMC, but my grandpa got AMC. But what was really cool about AMC was they had stuff like the Universal monster movies that they would chug out a couple times a year. They had the Abbott and Costello movies because that was a Universal product and everything. So I would have him tape copy stuff on VHS for me, the Frankensteins and all that stuff. And that's how I really discovered all that stuff because I could
Hmm.
just get it all. I was like a fiend, I was like, oh, because it was expensive to go to a store and get those tapes, VHS tapes back then, and
Hmm.
even then, you didn't have a lot of mail order. You didn't have Amazon, so you had to
Right.
go to like the mall, and then the only mall that carried that stuff was like 45 minutes from my house, so that was a special occasion. And I was a kid. I didn't have a lot of cash. My parents wouldn't give me cash. Like that. So it was special. Now I got this old movie stuff pumping in my house, and it's like, well, I can get my mom to get me maybe a 2.99 blank VHS tape. Now it's up to me what I tape on it and use that special tape and stuff. And then, so I started massing this library and learning, and every little bit of information as a movie fan, like magazine articles, because you didn't have the internet yet then, and the library, getting books and stuff. And
That
that
was my
stuff.
journey. That was part of my
Yeah,
journey. I mean, now that
yeah.
now that you're talking about your journey here, yeah, that was basically my journey. I would read stuff. I mean, it all started when I got a book on the Marx Brothers by my mom when my dad died, and I just started falling in love with these guys and wanting to see their movies and read up more about them. So I would go to the
Mm,
library, rent out the videotapes for 7 days only, and then the books, and use interlibrary loans to get other books from other libraries, and that was a fun time for me, that era of discovery, because then
mm.
I branched off into like, ooh, what's this, a giant ape movie, King Kong, I got to see that, so I would rent that.
Yeah.
uh, I think I was like, how old was I was about 13 or so when I first saw Luis Buñuel's Un Chien Andalou, which is kind of a trippy movie for a 13-year-old to be
Mm,
watching,
mm.
and
Yeah.
especially
I
in this.
mean, yeah. I saw that on TCM for
Yeah,
that was my gateway to a lot of stuff. But see, you're a little bit younger, so you kind of
yeah,
missed that little that divide there. But
right.
without telling the whole story. But anyways, you got TNT, and then of course TNT changed at one point when he introduced TCM. But see, we didn't
Mhm.
get TCM until I don't think it was on regular cable until, gosh, the mid 2000s. I think you had to have like satellite dish or something. But see, I didn't get into discovered TCM until I didn't get it personally until like 2006, 7, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think my parents had it first, and I'd come over there and watch a little bit of it. And it was like, man, this is cool. It made me feel like like a kid again, because by then I was like almost 30, and I fell in love with movies at 13, 14, somewhere in there. So I felt the same way. It was like, wow, this is great.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So yeah, I finally got it, and then I did the same thing. I had made on demand, had a burner uh, Blu-ray or DVD player. It was a recorder where you could record
Yeah.
off TV and stuff. So I started amassing big spindles of movies again, all kinds of different movies and stuff. And I could transfer my old tapes to stuff and blah, blah, blah. But, and I got into, TCM when I finally got it, had it and stuff. And it was, it's comfortable. Like you said, Robert Osborne's voice. You come home after working all day, and you turn on TCM, and he does. He comes on, he greets you like a friend, like Firewood TV said in his video, which is a very good video. And I'm sorry, I should have all these links in here, but I had a bunch of stuff. But anyways, but like his voice, it was a welcoming voice, and it was warm, and he was legit, and he was believable. And when you looked at the set, it reminded me a lot of the AMC set from back when AMC was a classic channel. And there was a guy named Bob Dorian on there, which is kind of similar, but the same effect. But there was something special about Robert Osborne, and when he interviewed people and everything. And I mean, like we could gripe about this and stuff over and over, but once he died, there was a slow change. It was starting to change, and then I think really kind of you started seeing it with the movies first, and it started, not so many movies anymore. The classic stuff, they were starting to show newer stuff, but they were showing stuff that was like influential to or influenced by the classics or something. So it made sense. It wasn't just like, well, we're going to show, something from 2010 now because, it's cool to watch it, to play it now, and people will watch it and stuff. It wasn't for the same reasons anymore. It was just like, well, this is popular. And I would say the cutoff point, I know somebody said something about the 60s. I would say the 70s up until like 1980, because once you get past maybe Star Wars time, 77, because then you had something that happened called the pop culture started happening. The marketability of stuff that we love, like Star Wars stuff. And
the film industry became less about art and more about capitalism and commercialism.
Yeah. So once they started doing that, it had a different kind of effect. It wasn't, I mean, it's still influential and stuff, but you could tell there's a difference. There's a difference there. So I would say up to the 70s, but we are getting older. I mean, I don't think about that sometimes. It's like, yes, I'm getting older, but it's like, if we're just going to do that, then we're going to have, they won't show nothing past the 80s then eventually. You know what I mean? Like if they're only going to show stuff that's up 30 years old and call it classics, are they going to still show 1922's Nosferatu? Are they going to still show something like that? Or is it, what's going on here? You know what I mean? But you could tell the change. They changed the set. They scrubbed everything. The new hosts, I still have not been able to kind of gel with those hosts, other than Ben Mankiewicz, who's been there since early mid days when Robert Osborne was there, and even him, he's not on there that much. He's just got maybe a couple of days where he introduces some stuff in the evening, and that's it. And I missed their little documentaries they would do. they would do stuff exclusive to TCM, like an hour documentary about stuff. Just special things they would do.
Right.
Bumpers and different stuff. And they just started changing a lot of stuff. And but see, if they hadn't have done, if I hadn't have discovered it as I did, and them showing movies from 1930, 1940, 1920, I mean, I would have never discovered a lot of stuff, and other people, and a lot of people like that stuff. But see, they're going to show less and less of that stuff. They're not going to show those oddball pre-code movies as much because they don't have the scheduling time. They're not going to show that many B westerns anymore. They're going to change their Saturday morning lineup now because they need to show something else. And they, they used to show more Republic stuff. They used to have I mean, you can only show so much in a 7-day week, but they did good about it. And I think that maybe they had some programmers that maybe left or something. And then when Warner Brothers kind of took over at some point, it started just was choking the life out of TCM. And now it's just, you turn it on. When they changed that logo.
Oh yeah.
Man, I was beside myself. And even my wife, who's not exactly someone who's got history with TCM or something like I do. I feel like, it's a girlfriend or something, But even her was like, what? This don't look right. You know what I mean? It just didn't feel right, And then
right.
I don't know. I don't know. What do you think, Cody? Because Gene, I could go in circles for chasing my tail for an hour.
Well, again, I'm just going to hammer the point home that, black and white movies, and I'm talking expressly black and white movies and some Technicolor stuff, like,
oh yeah,
just put a blanket term, old movies. Like, and when I say old movies, I mean from the silent era up until like the 60s. A lot of that stuff you can barely see anymore, unless it's like a special occasion, like It's a Wonderful Life or something like that. Or if it's a Disney animated classic, I think Freeform still airs, like Snow White or whatever. But like, if it's not one of those, if it's like a Wheeler and Woolsey movie from 1931 or whatever, the only place you're ever going to see that now is TCM. Or if a crazy guy like me shows it on public access. It's like, the channel was built for the marginalized movies, the movies that nobody else was showing or dared to show because they feared, if we show this stuff, our ratings will decline. TCM was a channel that took a risk, and AMC as well. I mean, we could do another stream on the whole downfall of AMC. It's like, these channels took risks to, say, hey, we're going to show these old movies because we believe that there's still an audience for them. And now it feels as if TCM is sort of abandoning that mission statement, because it's like, if they're going to continue to show more of these newer films, then their whole mission statement from 1994 that they initialized would have been null and void, and you say up to the 70s. I think it really should end at 1968, but that's splitting hairs. But regardless, there should be a cutoff point. Like, there should be a point where people are like, okay, this movie could still be seen on like Disney XD or something like that, or one of those channels. There should be a cutoff point. And it just seems as if TCM is being far, and this is going to be a word that people aren't going to like me using, especially when I get into my next point. But TCM is being far too liberal with a lot of their film choices, with a lot of their with what their guidelines are and what their mandates are, and I think they've gotten away from being what they used to be. And I don't know if you want me to get into my next point, because I think that we've laid the groundwork and established that these movies from the 30s and 40s really shouldn't be sharing space with movies from the 80s and 90s. Like, you know, I mean, if TCM really wants to show those newer movies, have a spin-off channel called TCM2, like how ESPN had ESPN2, MTV had MTV2. Have a TCM2, you know, and show those newer movies. Have a channel for older classic movies, and then have a channel for newer classic movies. If that's really what you want to show, TCM, do us all a favor and just split the channel off into two specific sections. A channel for the geezers like me and Mike, and a channel for the newer millennials that, you know, prefer to watch Pee-wee's Big Adventure instead of watching Casablanca.
Well, I would say to that, Geno, what they would do then, though, it would no longer be either commercial free and uncut, or it would be, you would have to pay for it like an app, you know, just like all these other things. And then at that point, it's like, you know, but if, you know, if that's how it was, like if I could have TCM before they just really just started kind of shedding a bunch of stuff, and it was, you know, $9 a month, that would almost be worth it if it could be as pure as that. But some things you have to say bye to, because there'll never be another Robert Osborne. There'll never be another this or that. But because I was just thinking, you know, when TCM started in 1994, you know, somebody that was 40 years old, you know, was growing up in, say, the 50s or 40s or something. So to them, they were movies, you know, they kind of grew up with. And that's how they're doing stuff. Like, because in the 80s, you know, people weren't that old yet.
Yeah.
But there is a crap load of classic movie fans out there. I mean, there's a ton of fans out there. It may not be the same numbers. It's just, you know,
the mainstream.
Yeah, the mainstream
that they're turning out today. Yes.
Yeah, but you have that one channel that you can go to, and that's why you get so much stuff. Now, they were going to TCM was on the chopping block period a couple years ago.
Yeah, I remember that, now that you say that.
And then some of the big shot directors, you know, came aboard and did something, and they said it's safe now. But, you know, I don't know. And what worries me is the watering down, the disintegration, if you will, of the channel together.
Right.
When will they just not care in the companies and just let it completely dissolve because people lost interest in it, lost heart with it? You know, there's no, you know what I mean? And so then it just disappears.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, you know, you're absolutely right on that. I mean, again, I think if they were to just split off into two distinct channels, one for older movies and one for, you know, more relatively newer movies. I mean, I think, you know, and he, the fellow that made that video, you know, really hit the nail on the head when he said that TCM is catering to millennials and Gen Zers and whatever, and they should not be the audience that they're targeting. I mean, if they want to watch these movies, sure, come right on in, but don't change things just to suit their tastes. And this brings me to my next point. I don't want to go to TCM and have, you know, some host, you know, virtue signal me and be a social justice warrior and tell me that, oh, by the way, you're about to watch The Jazz Singer with Al Jolson, and there's a sequence where he performs in blackface. By the way, blackface is horrible and should be condemned, and we shouldn't be celebrating that. And by the way, enjoy your movie. You know, who wants to hear that, really? I mean, you know, even on my own channel, Geno's House of Rare Films, I've had people come in on some of my uploads and say, oh, you should put a disclaimer up here. I think that if you know, I would like to think that people are a lot smarter than, you know, people think they are. Because here's the thing. The people who are coming to my channel, Geno's House of Rare Films, and the people that we're going to Turner Classic Movies are people who are well aware of the fact that blackface is unacceptable today. We are aware of this. We don't need to be told this. We don't need to be handheld like we're 4 friggin' years old, you know? And because I remember distinctly, I was watching when they had, there's Summer Under the Stars or whatever, and they were highlighting Laurel and Hardy, and I taped that whole marathon. Like they were always airing these bumpers in between the movies with like talking about blackface and how much of a problem it is. Yes, blackface was a problem in the 1930s. 1930s, 40s, and 50s. Yes, there was a lot of cultural insensitivity back then. I will grant you that. But there's a lot of other history about a lot of these performers that TCM doesn't tell you. Like, I'm good friends with a guy by the name of Nigel Driner, and I want to give Nigel a big shout out and a big tip of the cowboy hat here, because he, aside from being a massive Chaplin fan and doing the Modern Times Charlie Chaplin podcast, he is also a massive Al Jolson fan. And, he has taken people to task, and rightfully so, whenever they've tried to blanket term Al Jolson as this racist because he performed a blackface, not realizing that he gave a lot of black entertainers jobs in Hollywood when nobody else would. A lot of people, don't know their history, and that's what bothers guys like me, bothers guys like Nigel, and I'm sure bothers guys like Mike, and then, because here's the thing. If you don't like blackface, if you don't like yellowface, if you don't like things that are deemed culturally insensitive or sequences in films that are deemed insensitive to modern tastes, don't watch.
It's always been, that's always been the thing, as far back as I was a kid. It was like, if you don't like it, change the channel. If you don't like it, don't watch it. If you don't like it, don't read it. Don't listen to it. Don't.
Yeah, right. It's like if you see something on Facebook that you disagree with, don't click comment and spend like 50 hours of your life saying how horrible you think that this person is for saying this. Just scroll by. Just scroll by
or just maybe do research yourself. Let me catch up on some comments before I get too out of hand. I'm sorry. I think May brought that up. I'm sorry. Yeah, May was the first one in here. Waving to Geno.
Hello?
Yeah, May was Geno Cuddy. Yeah, rocking the stream. Then I put on their Firewood Media TV is the video that I saw. Geno saw. May said TCM used to be magical when I was a kid. Exactly. Yeah. Turner Classic Movies. In the UK, always showed movies up until the 60s, but you had to remember that a lot of movies are older now than when we were younger. So yeah, that's kind of like what we were talking about just now. So a 70s, 80s movies as old as I am now was then. Yeah, exactly. Like that's what I was trying.
Yeah. I mean, look, I get it. Like Back to the Future is now considered a classic movie because of the passage of time. I get that. But it shouldn't be on a channel where, like, I'd rather see 50 Wheeler and Woolsey movies programmed into TCM before I see Back to the Future program there. I'd rather see a bunch of RKO or Republic B Westerns. Like, I'd rather see a Tim Holt Western instead of seeing, Paul Verhoeven's RoboCop or something like that. Like, I get what people are saying in the comments, and I respect everybody's opinions and everything, but I'm steadfast in saying that there should be a cutoff point, and that cutoff point should be at least 1968, if not what Mike said earlier, 1978, 79.
Yeah, I'm just saying that. I mean, don't get me wrong, everybody out there. I love Back to the Future. I love RoboCop.
Oh yeah, I saw Back to the Future. Yeah,
I was going to say those are our classics, and they're always going to be classics. But maybe there needs to be a different channel. Maybe there is. Maybe some people say this is that have those more modern classics in there, and the influence, like Paul Verhoeven, show his movies. Start with his Dutch movies. Do a retrospective on the channel and show all the stuff he's done. We did Basic Instinct, stuff like that. Back to the Future, love Back to the Future, but like you said earlier, a lot of this stuff is shown on like 30 other channels, different stuff. So there is no way people are going to miss this movie. But see, if you don't see it on TCM, you might miss it because it was that one exclusive channel, and that's what made it special. So we don't
Yeah.
need to put all this other stuff that's on every other channel into the same pot on the stove with TCM, because it's doing what it's doing now, and it's just making it a bland channel that looks like everything else, and it's just gonna
Right.
it's just gonna blend in with the wallpaper, so to speak.
Right. Right.
And you won't notice it. It's not special. It's
Right.
And everything. I was gonna say, hey Dustin Neely's in the house. He's got a good channel. He has a lot of books and stuff, and a lot of times books and the movie, movie adaptations and stuff. So check out Dustin's channel. He said George Lucas fought the fight to preserve black and white and turn to the dark side with the garbage special editions of Star Wars. Yeah, like he fought the fight back in the days with colorization, but then he went and he just ruined some of his own films, which was almost similar to colorizing to a certain degree. But I guess that's to each their own. But
and now I want to say here, in my defense, like, look, I mean, people might be thinking of me as this old codger, old man yells at cloud, even though I'm only 30 years old. But, I want to say this. I like movies like Back to the Future. I saw Back to the Future during a revival screening, years ago, and I heavily enjoyed it. But, again, does not belong on TCM, And another thing that we can get into here, a lot of those movies you could find easily on streaming too. I mean, now that we have streaming, I mean, addressing that 4,000-pound elephant in the room, with streaming. I mean, how many Wheeler and Woolsey movies do you find on streaming? You know what I mean? Like, how many Tim Holt Westerns can you find on streaming? How many Randolph Scott movies from the early 30s can you find on streaming? Very few, I would think.
There's a couple of channels now. I found some Randolph Scott, but like two.
But then there's like thousands of other channels or streaming services that have your Back to the Futures, that have your RoboCops, that have your Preciouses and your Star Warses and your things like that. There's thousands of ways to see those movies. But there's only very few ways to see like a Wheeler and Woolsey B movie from like the 30s. So it makes no sense to have those popular movies, sharing space with movies that, by all intents and purposes, aren't as popular, aren't as in your face as those other movies are and continue to be. I mean, and yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, Geno, some people are probably asking themselves, who's Wheeler and Woolsey? Who's Randolph Scott? Who's Tim Holt? Well, exactly.
Right.
That's why we need channels like TCM, so that you can discover those people at 2 a.m. one night. You're flipping channels and you get in there, or you're up at 7 a.m. or something and catch this Western. It's like, wow, it was an old movie, but man, I really got into it. I started Googling who Tim Holt was. Now I want to, check out his stuff. He's got a bunch of DVDs you can buy. So see, it's just that influence and stuff. But people there's another fact, Geno. People take for granted Back to the Future, movies like that, because it's so in Star Wars, because it's so widely known. You know what I mean?
It's all over the place in the pop culture lexicon. Yes, indeed.
It's flooded the area, and So I do have to say HBO Max does have a TCM section on there, and they will show stuff, but it's limited. A lot of it's just the big name movies and stuff, but they have some oddballs in there. But it's not the same as the actual channel. But anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Gene.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't begrudge anybody who loves Star Wars or Pee-wee's Big Adventure or RoboCop or anything. A lot of those movies I like too, even though my own personal association with Star Wars is not a happy one. But, I do not begrudge anybody for loving those movies and wanting to see those movies be widely appreciated. I don't blame you at all. And, I don't begrudge you at all. And I think, you know, and if those movies are like near and dear to your heart, hey, who am I to say anything about that? All I'm saying is TCM should be for that oddball B movie that came out in 1935 from like an RKO or a Columbia Pictures, you know, that has like stars that you don't even know who they are, you know, and provide you with that age of discovery where you can, you know, find out, oh, I just suddenly fall in love with Ida Lupino, and I never even knew who she was yesterday. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's the whole thing. I mean, right now, let's say there's an 8-year-old kid out there.
Yes.
Now, he's by himself. He's watching TV. One day he's flipping channels and he discovers this old movie or something. He starts getting into it. But if it wasn't for that one channel that was showing that one special movie, I mean, it wasn't a popular old movie, and he has no other ways to kind of get something like that. That's what makes it special, because that's kind of what TNT did for me.
Right.
If I had never had watched TNT, I would have never known who Akira Kurosawa was.
Right.
Which look at all the influence that he was on Sergio Leone, George Lucas, and all these people. So now when you put that stuff on a timeline and you start kind of looking at it and studying it, it's cool. So then you go back and you can watch those foreign movies in Japanese subtitled.
Well, I'll even go
sense. You know, it all makes sense.
Yeah. I'll even go farther back and say, what about, you know, tracing the roots of a guy like Clint Eastwood? On my podcast, the Heart to Heart William S. Hart podcast, which I hope people check out, by the way. It's on all podcast platforms. You can find it easily. Heart to Heart William S. Hart podcast. On the episode where we reviewed Hell's Hinges, author James L. Neighbor told me, Nick, and Clive flat out that Clint Eastwood was inspired by William S. Hart's Hell's Hinges to make High Plains Drifter. So you need to trace the roots of those movies and see what came before. Because if you don't see what came before, then you really have no then you have no groundwork for what came after. I mean, you have an appreciation for what came after, but you have very little groundwork or basis as to how we got here. And that's why I wish, you know, and another thing that grinds my gears, and not TCM related, so forgive me for going on this tangent here, but movie reaction channels, you know, who react to the same 5 different movies that everybody else has seen, instead of, you know, reacting to. I would love for one of these movie reaction channels to react to Hell's a Poppin' with Olsen and Johnson, and be like, what the hell is going on in the first 3 minutes of this movie?
Exactly. You know? If that movie doesn't make you laugh or something, there's something wrong with you. Yes, it's from 1941, and it's freaking hilarious.
Right. And then you get to the dance numbers with I believe they were called Whitey's Lindy Hoppers. Amazing dancing.
Yeah, but it's all over the place. I mean, that's just that movie. That's a classic. That's only something you're going to see on something like TCM,
right?
Because it doesn't fit in with other programming and stuff,
right?
And you know, another thing
that movie's not even on an official. That movie, Hell's a Poppin', isn't even on an official DVD. I have a bootleg of that movie.
I do too, and I think it's Universal too. I think. And but see, some people would say it's kind of like some of the channels that are like movie collectors, DVD collectors, and you know that they're not, you know, they didn't watch that movie. They just collect it so they can have something to show.
Yeah, and have clout within the community because of their own insecurities about themselves, pretty much.
Well, yeah, and they get free swag and, you know, stuff. But
I mean,
I digress. But
I mean, how many channels do we need talking about frickin' Vinegar Syndrome, people? I mean, how many channels do we need talking about Vinegar Syndrome and you know, Severin and Synapse Films? Why don't we talk about Grapevine Video and Sinister Cinema and Alpha Video and all these other labels that are putting out these classic movies when nobody else is? You know, Why don't we highlight them? You know, give them the spotlight that they deserve. Like Greg Booth, Sinister Cinema, not nicest guy you'd ever want to deal with, nicest guy in the world. And his company's still going. It's been going since the VHS days. I did a video on Sinister Cinema, Grapevine, and Alpha, which I hope people check out, by the way. It's on both of my channels, so you won't miss it. But, you know, it's like, you know, there needs to be more attention given to classic movies from the silent era, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. And I'm not just talking about the A productions either. I'm talking about everything. Like even the B movies that were made around that time. Like I love, and I know they're B movies, I love the Charlie Chan mysteries starring Warner Oland and Sidney Toler, and even the ones with Roland Winters. Now, if they were to show those on TCM today, they would have to bonk you over the head with talking about the yellow face aspect and some of the stereotypical stuff that exists within those movies, you know, and deflate your overall enjoyment of them, you know. But I still think that, you know, those movies are great. They're very progressive for their time if you really watch them and read between the lines, because Charlie Chan being the smartest guy in the room in all those movies, smarter than all the white people, you know, the fact that he's played by a white man notwithstanding, you know. But there just weren't, but you know, there weren't any actors who, you know, of that descent, of like Asian descent, of that caliber, who could perform that role like a Warner Oland or Sidney Toler at the time. Now there are, but at the time there weren't. So you had to have a Sidney Toler or a Warner Oland perform that role with the gravitas that it deserved. And I'm sorry if people get butthurt over that, but you just got to realize your history and really study up on this stuff, people, like I have, like Mike has. We've spent like all of our lives dedicated to the study and research and viewing of classic movies. And, you know, if there aren't guys like us, who's going to carry the torch? Who is going to carry that torch when guys like Leonard Maltin pass away, when guys like Richard Band pass away? I mean, who is carrying Robert Osborne's torch right now at TCM, really? Besides guys like Ben Mankiewicz, who at TCM is worthy of carrying that torch?
Probably just Ben at this point.
Yeah.
But let me say something. Like when I first saw a movie that somebody was in blackface, you know, or let's say I saw somebody, and for some reason that has never made any sense to me. Like, just hear me out on this. This is like a thing that goes back to like the 1800s, to like minstrel shows, and even black performers did it to a certain degree. To me, it's just like, I know it's incredibly racist, but at the same time, it's incredibly kind of stupid in a way. It never made real sense. Like, but that's just me. So the first time I saw that, I was just like, okay. And I just went on with it because I knew that 1927, you know, Al Jolson, the jazz singer, first talking film, that was just something that they kind of did, you know. Still, I knew that it was a throwback to, you know, the stage, and a tradition that kind of a lot of these actors would go on because it came from the stage, and at some point maybe they did something like that because it was the role they did. Do I agree with everything about it? No. But like you said, it's kind of the history of show business, the history of the theater, and gosh, I can't think of the word.
Vaudeville.
Exactly, vaudeville. And you know what I heard when I, like, because you would see that a lot, like Al Jolson, the jazz singer, because they would have little a clip of it, like, you ain't heard nothing yet. You know, you'd always hear that. But at the same time, it's like, I know that that's Al Jolson. He's performing, he's playing a performer, and everything. And I just went past it. You know what I mean? I went past it. I went to the next page without having to be, I mean, was I bothered? It was like, it's kind of.
You don't have to hyperfixate on it, though.
Yeah, exactly. And
you know,
you move
like
on.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this. One of my favorite 30s comedies, one of the most surreal, off-the-wall, oddballs, totally politically incorrect films that you're ever likely going to see, is Mack Sennett's 1932 film Hypnotized, with a blackface comedy team of Miranda and Mack, the Two Black Rose. I find that movie hilarious. Now, what I'm going to say here is does that necessarily make me a vulgar racist? I don't think so. Because here's the thing. I could sit there, watch that movie and be entertained by it, but the very next second be helping, my black neighbor, bring his groceries into the apartment.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like,
it shouldn't. Yeah. It
right,
shouldn't. It shouldn't like pour over to real life. It's just
right,
entertainment. It's like reading a book.
right,
We can't censor everything. We can't
right,
like burn every copy of the Jazz
right,
Singer or
right.
Gone with the Wind or something because the actors in this movie were not treated right. Blah 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 blah. Let's burn it. Let's erase it from history. It's like, well, we don't need to go that far. Let's just be. Let's learn. Let's educate ourselves and look at it as okay. This was a part of the
I
road to where we're at now.
I got to
Some
speak though
people,
on. I got to
yeah, some
speak
people would
though.
disagree. They would disagree. Like, has things gotten better? Yes, compared to 1927, yes. But let's not go insane about it. That's like let's just
Yeah.
tear everything down that we don't agree with and throw it in
Mhm.
the ocean.
I got to speak though on Gone with the Wind here, and you saying that the minorities weren't treated well on set. I have to correct you somewhat on that because I know that Clark Gable did not tolerate any racist or racism towards Hattie McDaniel or any of the black cast members on that film. I think I remember reading a story, and somebody could verify me saying this, that he wouldn't come out of his dressing room until Hattie McDaniel and all these people were made to feel comfortable on set. So, it's not like everybody back then was a vulgar racist that, who wanted to tear down minorities. There were a lot of progressive, people in that industry, even back then, like Tallulah Bankhead, and Judy Garland. I think some of their biggest fans are the members of the LGBTQ community.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
it's like if you're gonna watch a movie with Judy Garland in blackface, don't necessarily think that she's a vulgar racist or that as somebody enjoying that performance is a vulgar racist, because they could be enjoying it for the Judy Garland aspect of it and be enjoying it for and knowing that Judy Garland was a progressive figure in Hollywood history and
Yeah.
paved the way for a lot of LGBTQ people. You have to know your history, people, and really do your research. Don't let a channel like TCM tell you that you're a bad person for liking Song of the South. Don't
Well,
let these
yeah.
channels tell you that if you enjoyed the Jazz Singer because it has a blackface segment, that you're a terrible person because of that. Again, the people, these millennials and the Gen Zers and Gen Yers and all these other people that are watching TCM don't need to be handheld and told that these things are bad. I'm sure a lot of them have black friends and have Asian friends and everything, and they know this for a fact already. They don't need to be told. We don't need to have the big storm cloud of social justice raining down on us when we're going to watch the Jazz Singer. I don't think we
Well,
do,
see,
honestly.
well, that's the difference, Gino, with me and you, because we are a little bit older. That doesn't mean anything that we're not educated or sympathetic towards,
Yeah,
things that are going on now. But we came from a time, or I know I came from a time where we had to use our imagination. Sometimes we had to read. We had to go a little bit further to find out something. It wasn't instant in a quickness. We didn't hear 100 people's opinions all around the world.
right,
Usually, that was that.
right.
But it taught us to kind of stop and kind of think for a minute. Use
Yeah,
your brain. Let's not overdo it and stuff. But
right.
I kind of want to move away from this and let's move on. But because it irritates me. It does. Like if they're going to show Gone with the Wind, I'll say this: they have to beforehand. They'll say, well, or they'll have something on there. But it's like, why can't you watch it? It's from the Civil War era. It's a work of fiction.
Right.
Hey, it's believable. Maybe something like this happened. Probably something worse happened, but it's all based on Civil War, for example.
Right.
But you got to kind of use your brain cells just a
Right.
little bit, and think for a minute that this is only a movie.
Yes.
These people made it. It's all based on a story.
Yes.
The end goal was the movie studio to make money, and entertain people. And, I mean, so, it is what it is. It's from that time. Okay. Judy Garland singing songs, dressed up like that. You probably heard the song before you really focused on her face for a minute there, because the beautiful music, there's something else there. But
right,
you just have to go past it, and sometimes, but that's our whole thing nowadays. We just don't have.
Turn off your 2026 brain and turn on your 1935 brain.
Well, just sit back and relax.
Yeah.
Don't be so up in arms about everything.
Yeah, and uptight.
Calm down.
I agree.
Yeah, it's like, calm down. Take 2 hours and just escape from the world. Take a chill pill and just relax.
Yes.
You'll live a lot longer.
Yes.
And just know that this is a work of fiction.
Yes.
It's like reading a book. You got to kind of use your mind a little bit to picture stuff in there. And that's your own thoughts. Like, if you read a bad book, don't go out the next day and repeat every bad word. It's like when you're a kid, you heard a bad word. Well, don't go say it.
Yeah.
Immediately, like your parents wouldn't let you watch something. Well, if they let you watch it and you couldn't repeat something, then you have that maturity to not repeat it. And see what I'm saying? So it's like there's a certain immaturity in that line. But I don't know. This is like a subject. We could do a whole 3-hour thing about just the ridiculousness of things.
Right.
But I don't know. Anyways, I was going to say.
Yeah, to bring it back,
Yeah, to kind of reel it in for a minute, because it's like, what? I don't know. I wish we had like another person or maybe 2 other people on here to kind of do a full table kind of discussion.
Yeah.
Stuff. I really wish we could have got Cole on here.
Yes.
He would have been I think we all could have
played
some cards with him and stuff. But the whole thing about this, I just wanted to touch base on TCM and just say it started so
righteously good.
So influential, such a beautiful thing. And now it's like, what is it becoming? It's not even doing its plan, the initial plan that they set out to do and stuff. And they can't influence anybody if they're not showing any kind of stuff that's not on every other channel.
Right.
They need hosts that seem genuine, seem like they got something going on. And I'm not saying that they're not qualified, and I'm not saying that they're not good at their jobs. Yeah. They are. It's just something is lacking. There's
a missing element.
Yeah, because it's like, once we, with our ears, have been able to hear other hosts and other things, it just don't sound the same. It's like a rock band that has only one original member now.
Right.
And you're like, man, something sounds off. It's the same, but something's off. It don't sound the same. I don't get the same warm fuzzies about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It's like, we don't need to show, movie made 10 years ago on TCM. It doesn't fit the programming, and whoever's doing it is not looking out for the art part of everything. They're just looking out at
TCM.
Let's get people in here to watch this, and which makes me think. Well, sorry, Geno. Which makes me think that eventually they are going to give in to commercials, because this is what they're gearing up to: get the audience in and then give them the commercials. Because you know what I mean.
TCM has veered from being a showcase of art to being a product to sell. I mean, with their
like the wine and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, if people enjoy that stuff, hey, again, I'm not going to begrudge them for that. But it's just, do I drink wine while I watch a classic movie? No, I drink freaking Coca-Cola. You know,
Yeah,
I
me too.
mean, I mean, you know, not all classic movie fans are these hoity-toity, uptight folks who, can afford to go on cruises. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, classic movies should be for everyone, everyone. And honestly, to me, I don't think TCM is doing classic movies. I think they're doing classic movies a heavy disservice by including later films in their schedule. I think they're doing classic movies a disservice by hitting people over the head with social justice statements. And I think they're, doing classic movies a disservice by molding them into a product to sell instead of having them be evaluated for their own sake.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
know?
but TCM does have. I agree with you on the cruise, but they did start with the film festival that they have out there in like April,
Yeah.
which I think that's pretty cool. I
Have
mean,
you ever
but
attended that?
oh no, I wish I could. It's always during my birth month, around my birth week, so
Mm-hmm.
that's like a bucket list thing to go do that, on my birthday or something.
Mm-hmm.
But the cruise is a little different. It's going to cost a lot more because you got to fly to a port, and then you got to do that. Yeah, you're right. It's a bigger expense, and not everybody that drinks wine is hoity-toity, but the way they
No, no.
present it, yeah, that's the way they present it to you. It's like, oh, come on, it's like I don't want to buy wine. I just want to watch some cool movies, man. It's
I
like
don't want. Yeah, I don't
you
want to
just
have
showed a
other.
10-minute commercial
Yeah.
about wine. You could have shown a short subject or something that time.
Yes, like how they used to. They used to show like short comedies, cartoons. They used to have the MGM parade and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
We don't need a 10. Mike is so right. He is so right. We don't need a 10-minute wine commercial. We need to see a freaking Laurel and Hardy comedy or a Taxi Boys comedy or a Happy Harmonies short.
Mhm. Oh,
Like that.
there's a ton of shorts. Like I discovered what Pete was his Pete something
Pete Smith.
specialties, Pete
Pete
Smith
Smith.
specialties.
Yeah.
Um,
Joe
oh
McDokes
man,
with the behind the eight ball.
yeah, yeah, and then MGM did tons of shorts and
Yeah.
stuff, and a lot of Warner Brothers shorts and stuff.
Right.
Let me catch up on some of these comments. Me and Gino's just been we just been we're not
Yeah.
ignoring you guys. We know you're there. Hopefully, we know you're there.
I mean,
Uh,
in my defense, I can't see any of the comments, so I'm just like the guest here. But Mike's the
oh,
captain.
I thought I have it turned on, but maybe I don't know. I just started working a StreamYard from this seat. Like I'm
Yeah.
just starting to learn it, and I don't have the paid one. So, but I was going to say May to December 29 has been sticking with us, and I appreciate that. And
Oh,
I
May to
haven't seen.
December. That's Malcolm. Hey, Malcolm, how you doing there, buddy?
Oh yeah, Malcolm. Yeah, yeah. I've been kind of watching your questions out the corner of my eye, so I haven't been ignoring you. But I was going to say, oh, and Steve Moody. Steve Moody. Hey, thanks for showing up, Steve. He said the market for all the old movies we love is shrinking. Older folks are dying off, and the kids can't lift their heads from TikTok long enough to watch an 80-minute noir. It might be a matter of survival, yeah, that they're changing stuff too.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's part of
that
the
is
big
true.
the
But
equation. Yeah,
but it
still
still
it's like
doesn't jive with me. It still doesn't jive with me,
it,
people. You
it's
could
still
sit
a,
there, and defend it all you want and say it's a matter of survival and stuff like that. I get that and I see where you're coming from with that. But still it doesn't jive with me that that a channel centered around the showing of classic movies is going to show movies outside of the original guidelines set in place by the network back in 1994. It just
Mhm.
doesn't jive with me. And sooner rather than
Yeah.
later, TCM is going to become another AMC where it's just going to be a bunch of knockoff Walking Dead shows and Mad
Yeah.
Men and all this other stuff.
Which are good programming,
Yeah, they
but
are, but they don't belong on AMC. AMC
no,
stands for American Movie Classics, not all zombie network or whatever. I can't even come up
Um,
with an anagram for that.
yeah. Well, I was going to say, gosh, I almost lost my train of thought. I was going to say,
Yeah.
but yeah, you're right about what you just said because um, TCM shouldn't have to compete with all these other channels. TCM
Right.
should just be TCM. It's its own little niche, if you will. I mean, there are a couple other little channels I've noticed streaming. There's one channel called Movies, and they show
Yeah.
a lot of older stuff. There's something else that shows older
You know
stuff,
what
but
channel looks great?
commercials.
You know what channel looks great to me, because sometimes in my Facebook feed I get stuff, and Malcolm, could probably attest to this, living in the UK. But there's a channel in the UK called Talking Pictures that
Mhm.
looks amazing to me. Amazing, because they air a lot of this stuff that we're talking about. Plus, they air a lot of stuff made in that country
Mhm.
as well. Like, you could probably turn on one of those networks and see a Carry On flick or whatever, you
Mhm.
know. So
Yeah,
there are alternatives to TCM, but TCM should be the king of classic movie networks, and
yeah,
and these days it's just not really that much
mhm,
anymore.
yeah,
And
yeah. That I was going to say the UK. If you think about it, they could have their own classic movies channel with
right,
all the silence and all the classic, the
and
30s,
and the
all
quota
the classic
cookies,
movies.
yeah.
Yeah, and then just their bunch of stuff to discover. There's
Hmm.
tons of stuff that I'm learning more and more about and stuff.
Hmm.
Even with Alfred Hitchcock, you got all his silent stuff, you got all his
Hmm.
30s, his British stuff. They could
Hmm.
have a whole channel of just British stuff, a
Right.
whole, you know. Um, but I think they're set up a little bit different with how they're, BBCs and paid stuff,
Yeah.
country run stuff. I won't even get into that. But
But
I like
you want to
for
know
that
what's
example.
also, now that you brought that up, I'm glad that you brought that up about paying outs and the BBC and all that. I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't know what cable company you have, Mike, but like, I found it absolutely ridiculous a few years ago when I had to buy a bloody sports package just to have TCM on my cable package.
That's why I cut the cord, man. I
Yeah.
just stream stuff on Roku, and that's why I see little bits of TCM on HBO Max, and
Hmm.
I look at everything online. Like I can look at their programming guide, um, and stuff, and I just I don't ever see anything new or fresh or interesting. It's like, man, I already saw that. Man, I already saw that. Man, I already saw that. And it's like there's nothing new. They just show the same kind of stuff, more or less,
Yeah.
all
I mean, I love Greer Garson, but how many times do we need to see Pride and Prejudice played on TCM during the month?
the time.
You know, why don't you
Yeah.
play Singing Like It? An RKO B movie. Why don't you play the odd Ken Maynard Western or something like that? You
Mhm.
know, I mean, that's why guys like me exist. Six Gun Theater.
I guess in an alternate universe, Gino, I guess we could be tycoons, man, because we would
Yeah,
start a all B Western channel and
yeah.
all British movie channel, and
Hmm.
just what I mean, we would be rolling fat, man, with cash if that was.
And Malcolm
It's
could
an
be our Robert
alternate.
Osborne on the British channel.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, let me catch up on some more of these. Malcolm did say blackface is unacceptable happening today, but not in the movies from the ages ago. Different
Agreed.
times, exactly. Different times, people looked at stuff differently because they were used to that, from the stage and stuff.
Hmm.
Somehow to
It
them
was a
that
holdover.
was
Yeah.
it was normal. But you know, uh, yeah. And then Malcolm also said, Gino, you need to run your own TV channel.
I'd love to. I'd love to put an antenna on top of this roof, but my landlord, who would rather fly a Trump flag than give us a new toilet, would be mad at me for doing that. So,
Malcolm also said, I guess blackface, to a certain degree, it's no different than a clown having whiteface, or something, putting grease on
Yeah, I guess.
stuff, I guess, to a certain degree. Um, he also Malcolm's had a lot of questions here, by the way. Uh, uh, he said his nan was a racist and used to tell people it's not her fault that she grew up in a different time. It's true. It was a terrible that she was that way, but she grew up in a non-multicultural cultural living space.
Society.
Her world, her society was completely different.
Right.
And yeah, you have to think that, because to a certain degree, because uh,
Right.
it's hard for people to change. I mean, I've heard that a lot, and people can change, but some things, I guess, if it's ingrained from childhood, and maybe it isn't, maybe you don't change your views. I don't know.
Hmm.
I wouldn't want to be that way. I think I can change things to be a better person, but I don't know. There's probably lots of people that are, and you don't know that because they keep it to themselves or something. There's some outright people.
Yeah, it's
You
like
know,
my
you know.
mom. My mom used to, and I don't know if she'd appreciate me saying this, but she used to be part of AA way back in like the 80s, 90s.
Mhm.
And she told me that like the serenity prayer of people in AA was just this: accept the things you cannot change and have the courage to change the things that you can. Accept the fact that blackface existed, but have the courage to not be a racist idiot to the next black person you see.
Mhm.
Simple.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not
Because
rocket
yeah,
science.
like if we don't learn about this stuff, it
Right.
just we it e- it's like important things. It's like the Holocaust and stuff. If we don't
Yeah.
talk about it, it's forgotten, and
Yeah.
history will be rewritten and stuff. So,
Hmm.
but some people are like, well, maybe that should say forgotten. Well, it's all part of the weird,
Well,
wild.
look at all the anti-Semitism that's going on in our society today, and you'll see why
Mhm.
the Holocaust shouldn't be forgotten.
Yeah.
Sorry to bring it to that, but
But yeah,
you know,
but see, like in movie history, it's all
yeah.
part of the weird, wild trip that movies has evolved in different
Hmm.
times and different things to make it where it's at now. Maybe I
Right.
don't know if
Right.
movies are doing so good like they used to be, but I would like to think that, like we said earlier, like I think more opportunities are available to, like you said, Asian actors. Like a real Asian actor could do those parts, duh,
Yeah.
now. And those opportunities are there and stuff
Right.
now, more so than 90 years ago.
Right.
But 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 if we don't know that, then if a little kid learns wanting to write a report about Hollywood, the history, then what's the bad and the good of Hollywood? Just like anything, like
Right.
politics, what's the good and the bad of politics? There's little elements,
Right.
but that's another, I don't know, anything's better with that or not nowadays. But anyways, I don't know. But yeah, so yeah, we're going on the second hour, and we're talking about TCM tonight. Uh, let's see, Malcolm brought up the Keystone Cops, and yeah, and like like for example, in comedies, even our gang, the Little Rascal stuff. I remember as a little kid, like, say there were some kids, they something blows up in front of them, and they have blackface all of a sudden. Like that's from cartoons too, but
Yeah.
it was meant for just a dumb laugh, and that's what it was then.
Exactly.
And now it's kind of like, it's still funny though. It's like he got
Right.
blew up, but I don't know. It's just crazy stuff. But the point, I guess the point I'm trying to make is we could watch that and just kind of move on and just be like,
Yeah.
that's probably not acceptable
Hmm.
or something. But you would just move on.
Hmm.
It doesn't. I don't think any of that ever stunted my growth. Like I couldn't
Right.
get past it or something, and I
Right.
became this horrible person. Um, but I don't know. I mean, they've always been able trying to censor literature, all the
Mm.
way back,
I mean,
art, all the
all
way
people need
back.
to do is look at your Instagram feed and your Facebook feed to know that you're a great guy, Mike. You're a great father. You're a great husband. You're a great friend, and you are very knowledgeable in film history and your movies, and especially your westerns. I got to give that to you. So I don't think anybody's going to judge at least you tonight. They may want to knock me out and give me some raps on the chin, but I don't think anybody is going to have any issue with anything that you said tonight because they know where it's coming from and they know that you have a good heart. So I gotta just defend you here for a little bit.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Well,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like we're just trying to talk. We're just trying to bring up stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
this stuff happened, and we're just talking about it. I see myself as a historian in a way.
Right.
I love history. I love my family history. I
Mm-hmm.
love stuff like that. I'm weird, I guess. I like history and older stuff, and I don't know. It's from a different time. It's like architecture now. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
appreciate the architecture from 100 years ago. Uh, Everything now is like a box, square, plain.
You know what a good example of that is? And I'm sorry that I'm using this as an example. I appreciate more the red roofed facade of McDonald's than I do the cold office building looking McDonald's that we have today.
Yeah,
And,
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, I was gonna say it had some character to it. You
right,
had like
right,
Playland, you had Big M, and you just had some character to stuff, and
right.
it stuck out. It stuck out like, hey, there's Pizza Hut, there's McDonald's. You
Hmm.
know, I don't know. I guess, but see, you have to go back to that and say,
Hmm.
well, this is what stuff looked like then, good or bad. That's
Right.
what it was. That's kind of was a part of everyday life.
Hmm.
Was this and that, but we care we venture on, we carry on, we try to
Hmm.
improve and stuff. So, um, was there some other stuff that am I missing some things? I mean, because we can debate about uh,
I
things,
think we
but
hit all the major points that we wanted to make here.
yeah,
Like, again, like people get in your last minute questions. Like, if you have any questions for me, questions for Mike, certainly just write them in the comments.
yeah,
Mike will read them out because I can't see them from where I'm sitting.
yeah. Oh, I don't know. Well, I'm gonna have to look into that. I
Um,
was going to show you this, but this was something that they was a monthly magazine that TCM put out. It's the Now Playing Guide. I don't know if you
yeah.
remember that. And it was pretty cool because it had the schedule in it basically, and you could just flip through it. You could highlight a movie you wanted
Hmm.
to see or tape, and had the stories, had a crossword puzzle, different stuff like that. And eventually, it was bigger at one point, and then they downsized it, and then they just did away with it eventually.
Right.
But yeah, for like $12 a month or something like that, which was kind of high, 10ish, 15 years ago maybe. But yeah, I got a big stack of that, and to prove what it like a TCM fan I was back in the day. I mean, here it is. I got this TCM. To show up this TCM pillow.
Oh, wow. That's nice. That is
Yes,
nice.
yeah, that I've had that for years. Like I got a hat. I got
Nice.
I got two different hats. I got a couple shirts, but this stuff's older stuff. This is
Mike's got
old
all
stuff.
that TCM swag.
Got some swag,
Maybe next
but
week we could see all your Six Gun Theater Sunset Cuddy swag.
yeah, I got what at least I got at least two, maybe three shirts.
Yeah.
Those are nice shirts, man. I mean, I know it's a lot to keep up with and keep producing and stuff, but those were high quality
Thank you.
shirts. They were, and the necks were good. I don't like a neck that's all stretched out and stuff, and
Right.
real
You don't
real
want to look.
soft.
Yeah.
Soft and
Neck that's all stretched out. Yeah. You don't want to be looking like how girls dressed in the '80s with the necklines going down to their arms and.
yeah, yeah.
We
Or
all
the or
remember
the
that.
necks. Yeah, the necks would be so stretched out, they'd be like almost around your shoulder and stuff. Tight
Yes.
t-shirts, they could fit
Yes.
all. but yeah, they were good quality. So I don't know if anybody's watching this that may have picked up a shirt or something, but
Certainly help. Yeah. If people are swinging by tpublic.com/Six Gun Theater, or look up Six Gun Theater, on TeePublic or your friendly neighborhood Google website. But yeah,
yeah, I
just,
got sidetracked earlier. I'm sorry, Gino, to cut you off, but I was going to put some links
yeah.
for you in there, and I didn't get to do that. I'm going to try to put these in here. I may put them in on the replay because a lot of
Yeah.
people I've found that come back and watch them in the replay and stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Gino's got some good stuff going on. Originally, we were going to get back together to do a live stream, and we were going to continue talking about some of the westerns that we didn't talk about and stuff we didn't talk about.
We could still do that.
Yeah.
Just got to find the time.
Yeah, and then we were actually going to do one about Wheeler and Woosley because you brought up some Wheeler and Woosley earlier, talking about that, and just do some stuff like that because it's kind of cool to find somebody that's a kind of a kindred spirit in a way that kind of know. Well, if I say crack nuts, you know what I'm talking about, and it's not something else, or the movie and stuff. So this was real spur of the moment and stuff.
Right.
I was like, dang, man, that video was really on point, man. It was good, impassioned, and felt the way I felt. And so I just thought, let's do a live stream. Let's just do it, and everything. I saw Mike from Gray Media 1951. He said, when I began collecting more and more classic films, I found that I didn't need TCM anymore. So I finally dropped cable altogether. Yeah, that's true. Because I have about 12 or 13 spindles of DVRs and stuff that I recorded for years and years. And when I look at the current schedules of what's coming on now, it's like I hate that. I've already seen that. Man, they keep showing the same stuff. They don't show nothing new, and
it's like the channel is literally on autopilot.
It's on autopilot, and they just show. I mean, even my dad noticed this. He's a 70-some-year-old man. It's like they show that movie all the time. I'm like, I know, Dad. They show a lot of stuff all the time. Everything, but I guess I'm hopeful for the channel. I mean, I'm hoping maybe it will take a turn and get a little bit, change its pace and stuff. Because if it doesn't change a little bit at all, it's going to go away. Because they're just, you know what I mean? It's just going to disappear. They have a huge audience. I mean, like the film noir stuff with Eddie Muller and stuff. It's huge. And they got the audience, but it's just their program.
They're alienating them.
They're alienating their own true supporters, the people that have stuck by and stuff. And I think Eddie Muller, or whoever's doing the film noir programming, is the only one that seems to be mixing it up a little bit by showing different stuff, and you're not just showing the Maltese Falcon once a month or something.
Right. I mean, one of my favorite film noirs is a later period RKO film from I believe it's 1952. I'd like to say, and this is the movie that made me fall in love with Faith Demurg, and it's Where Danger Lives with Faith Demurg and Robert Mitchum and Claude Rains.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think one of my. I have a lot of them. It's hard for me to pick a favorite, but one of my favorites is Detour, which is one of the
Edgar G. Ulmer, PRC.
Yeah, one of the King B movies of all times.
Yeah.
Just getting into a movie like that will teach you about, Poverty Row Studios. Of that time, like Monogram.
Studios that took risks on directors and people's visions that, extended far beyond the rather polished product that Hollywood was making. I mean, RKO took a lot of chances on people and properties that would have never, without RKO, would we have King Kong, Citizen Kane, or any of the Walt Disney animated films, at least up until 1955? Would we have the Wheeler and Woolsey films? Would we have the Ginger Rogers, Fred Astaire musicals? RKO is one of the most underrated studios of that time period, in my opinion. So,
Oh yeah,
but
yeah.
that's
It,
good,
yeah, I mean, even in like say the Rocky Horror Picture Show, they have in the
Yeah.
background. If you've ever seen that, the RKO
Yes.
stuff, and that's kind of iconic in a way because when people see
Yes.
the tower beeping, it's like, oh yeah, yeah, that, you know.
Yes. It's a comforting thing to see, yes, at the beginning of a
Yeah,
film.
so you would think they would be more widely known and
Yeah.
stuff. But man, RKO, man, so many good movies, all
Yeah.
genres, just all
Yeah.
kinds of cool stuff. In which watching TCM, you got to see so many of those, and they
Right.
didn't just show King Kong, they didn't just show Citizen King. They went deep, and like I'd never seen the Astaire, Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers musicals before,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, I'm not a huge musical person, but I love like 1930s musicals and stuff because they just had music that like the Warner Brothers musicals and stuff.
Oh yeah, like I love 42nd Street, and I love that. Yeah.
They're just so well made, on a
Yes.
budget, tight, not too long, just fun. They're just fun movies and stuff. And
Yes.
like the Stair Rogers movies, like they're just great.
Right.
Beautiful music and stuff. But I probably would have never discovered any of that stuff without TCM and stuff.
Right.
And before that, TNT, because
Yeah.
TNT really laid it out. And I think Dustin said earlier about Monster Vision. They had Monster Vision.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for bringing that up. That was a great block and great programming of old creature features and things like that. Sometimes hosted by Joe Bob Briggs, I believe.
Yeah, I think in the later years it was. And I was going to say, I think it came on Friday nights, I want to say. I think it may have been Saturday nights, but yeah, I remember. And that's where Dustin said that he discovered Godzilla through the Godzilla movies and stuff. So yeah, see, that's, what I mean? Me discovering Charlie Chaplin, I mean, but see, the thing is, it's weird. I had seen a movie of his when I was little, but it didn't make the impression on me.
It didn't register with you like it did when you when you got older. Yeah.
Yeah, got older and saw like The Great Dictator and Modern Times, and it was just like, wow. And it all just gelled for me and stuff. And it came at a time I needed something like that to get into.
Yeah.
And there wasn't too many of us around, like the film geeks at that time. Now it's like cool to be a film geek or be a nerd or something. But there was a time where it wasn't exactly the coolest thing, to be a nerd or something.
Yeah. Life wasn't always the Big Bang Theory, ladies and gentlemen.
No, it wasn't always a nice little sitcom, let's put something funny on a shirt and blah, 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 But yeah, I don't know, man. Anything else thinking about? I mean, we could just keep talking about certain things, but
we could, we could continue being the old men who yell at the clouds, but I think there certainly was a conversation that I felt was a long time coming, for me to have with somebody. And I'm glad it was with you, Mike, somebody who's, understanding and knows their history and everything. I mean, we could yell at the clouds all we want, but I don't think it's going to change anything. I'd like it to, but I don't think it's really going to change anything. But at least, with guys like us, with guys like Cole, who made that video, it's a good thing that this conversation is starting to happen and that people are taking notice of the fact that this once prestigious channel go-to hotspot for classic movies is now just becoming yet another product that they're trying to sell you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just another part of Warner Brothers.
Yeah,
it's all part of a product and stuff.
Yeah,
and what really impressed me in seeing Cole is is seeing a lot more younger people. I know he's not exactly young, but he's probably close to your age, I would say.
Yeah.
But even you, Gino, just people your age being that fascinated in the stuff that you are, and you know
Hmm.
what you're talking about, and
Right.
that gives you hope, even if this channel doesn't last forever. At least it helped make a film fan out of it.
Yeah.
And who knows where that leads, and
And
um,
and even
yeah.
speaking generically on that, you're saying that maybe this channel won't last forever, and hopefully somebody discovered a great classic film through this venture. You know, I'm not even going to say that about TCM. I'm going to, what about your channel, Mike? Mike's DVDs and Blu-rays collection. What if somebody discovered a great film through your channel and said, "Hey, Mike," writes in your comment section, "Hey, Mike, I saw that movie you talked about in your DVD collection the other day. It was brilliant, and you were spot on with your critique of it." And then you strike up
Mhm.
friendships and whatever. I
Oh yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I think people like us, I mean, I don't, do this as often as I probably should, but, people like us are the guys that are going to carry that torch when channels like TCM fade, when all these other, entities, fade from view or alienate their audiences or what have you. So I'm more than happy to be that torch carrier, and I think you are too, Mike. And I think there's a great handful of people out there who don't mind being that torch carrier.
Yeah.
So as long as we keep carrying the torch for classic movies and keeping the legacies of these people alive who aren't alive to keep them alive themselves, I think is a good thing. You know.
Mhm. I was going to say, Malcolm just said, thanks to Mike, I found the Emmanuel movies. I don't know if I've ever covered the Emmanuel movies, Malcolm. Maybe a different Mike, maybe. I don't think I've ever talked about those, but yeah, but no, you're right, man. Because I know I've a few people have said that about me, and I know I've learned a thing or two from you myself. So I know people have took away something from our shows and
Hmm.
have found something, and that's the whole thing I wanted to do with this. Is just talk about this crazy love, obsession, whatever it is that's kind of
Hmm.
made me happy and got me through life all these
Right.
years. To just kind of connect maybe with other people, but I had
Mhm.
no idea 5 years ago um, that I would meet a bunch of people like you and just a ton of people and have this little tiny community of like-minded people,
Right.
and it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I love to still be trying to learn something and discover things. And
Hmm.
I'm still discovering things. So I think as long as people can have that sense of discovery,
Hmm.
I think old movies will be there because it's one of the best things to discover. I think it opens up all kinds of other things.
Hmm.
And I didn't say this earlier, but I think what it was back in the day before the internet and stuff, the world seemed smaller.
Yes.
So once the world got bigger by, say, the internet, and even though now that we're connected because of the internet, it's
Hmm.
made it's done a good thing there, but in other ways it hasn't. But I think that's
Yes.
how TCM and AMC and stuff thrived
Yeah.
because it seemed like a small world.
Yes.
And now,
You really couldn't see this stuff anywhere else, really, at the
yeah,
time.
yeah. And like now people are just like, I have like a dozen things right now I'm thinking about while I'm clicking my remote. It's like, I don't know
Hmm.
where to land. I have too much choice. I don't know what to watch.
Right.
Uh, so a lot of stuff gets kind of forgot about and stuff like
Right.
that. So maybe that's part of the problem, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm hopeful for the future. I
Yeah.
hope a lot of younger people right now, 10-year-old person falls in love with Buster Keaton
Yes.
and they just turn into this weird little film kid, and I'll tell them what, makes their life better and stuff. So I don't know. So that's where I'm at. I guess I'll answer this couple last questions here, and I guess we'll wrap this up. It's almost 9. Mike from Gray 1951, he said he bought a stack of Dennis Hopper movies because of me.
Nice.
And that could be good or bad. Malcolm also said, Mike, I hope you're feeling better. Just saw your video of you in the hospital. I hope it wasn't anything major. I've had ins and outs in the hospital last year, so I'm hoping everything is going to be.
Yes, definitely. And everybody even I'm having, health issues at 30 years old. I have dreadful neuropathy in my feet, like horrible neuropathy. I'm actually thinking about starting a new treatment for that, which I'm going to have to do for the rest of my life, go in, once a month and, get insulin into me, for 2 hours straight. But it's nothing compared to what you have to go through, Mike, but it is a process. And, it's, we are getting up there. We are, the bones aren't exactly as great as spry as they once were, but we're still kicking, we're still hanging in there. And if everybody could just keep everybody in their prayers, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah. Keep everybody in their thoughts and prayers. Cause I always think, even when I'm having my worst moments with dealing with the medical stuff I do, there's always somebody worse off.
Yes.
And that's what kind of gets me to keep trudging
yes.
through life, because
yes.
I know it could be worse.
Yes.
So, but anyways, thanks, Geno, for being on here.
Of course.
I just wanted to kind of just get on line and talk with you and just get some people to stop in and stuff. And I don't know. Thanks for showing up as always. And I know we'll do some other stuff in the future. Just
yeah, of course, anytime.
And thanks for everybody that stopped by in the chat. Malcolm, Mike, Dustin, and a couple more people. I don't want to forget it was the other person. Yeah, Dustin. Oh, man, there's somebody else. Where's he at? Steve. I think you guys were the main people that commented and stuff. So thanks for stopping in and everything.
Right.
And I guess we'll wrap this up. And do you want to plug anything, Geno? Because you've got a couple of channels. I think,
yeah.
Going on. You got some programs going on.
Yeah, just go over to Geno's House of Rare Films and just subscribe and whatever. And if you want to support me financially, and support my efforts and everything, there's a multitude of options to do that. There's my Buy Me a Coffee, which I think it's just buymeacoffee.com/Geno Cuddy. Or you could just look me up on Buy Me a Coffee. And Mike will put the link below. And there's also my PayPal link. I know some people are kind of weird about PayPal, but my PayPal is paypal.me/Geno Cuddy if you want to donate there. There's also my TeePublic store where you can buy some choice Western film apparel. If you want to have a picture of Sunset Carson on your shirt, just like this one, go to my store.
Where else are you going to get one of those?
Right. If you and also listen to the Heart to Heart William S. Hart podcast, that's HART, Heart to Heart William S. Hart podcast, where each month, actually, we're going to be recording an episode tomorrow night, discussing a couple more films in William S. Hart's filmography. And so continue following us on the pilgrimage with that. And Six Gun Theater is hopefully going to be returning soon. We got to get the virtual set installed at the studio, but I think after that, we're going to start work on season 4. I'm also going to be starting up a new show called Cartooning with Cuddy, where I'm going to be showing people how to draw cartoons, and hopefully I'll get some interaction with the local art community here in Middletown. And other than that, I really don't have much else going on. Maybe, just read up on my articles on blazingjustice.blogspot.com, where I review Westerns. I write for the Plymouth Review-Current, which is a Wisconsin-based newspaper. And yeah, I guess that about does it. I can't think of much more else that I have going for me, but yeah, I think that's enough on my plate for right
I was
now.
gonna say that sounds like a lot, man. And
Yeah.
I do have to testify to that. The Heart to Heart podcast and Six Gun Theater, all that's real good stuff.
Thank you.
A lot of good stuff, man. You write some good articles, and I mean, there's so much stuff to keep up with. You have to almost, I don't know, you stay very busy. So, but anyways, thanks for showing up. Thanks for everybody else showing up, and we'll try to do this again some other time. So, see you guys later.
See you later.
Peace out.